Alright, what's going on, everybody? It's me. It's Caretographer. And, well, I guess we're homebrewing a bit today. I haven't really stopped. I've been busy bee in the backgrounds, but, um, I'm scheduling wise with my life, I'm not ready to start, like, dungeon mastering again. So I've been putting off some of my homebrew, and kind of just focusing on the project at hand, the volcano island, as it were. So today, I'll let you in a little bit on what we've been doing. You get to see some of the document, and I'll breeze over some of the stuff that we've been working on. And I'm hoping that we can get a few people in chat to help me out with some ideas. We're kind of hard stuck here a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. We have a lot of really cool ideas that we have kind of bundled up into one package and direction, and there's a theme, and we know where it's going, right? We just don't necessarily have like the directions, or there's some things just aren't making sense, right? So like when you design something, I guess in D&D or in fantasy, right? It's very easy to say I want A, B, and C, right? But then if all you look at is just the face value of it, and it's a linear, straightforward kind of dungeon crawl, all you really need is A, B, and C, right? But if you want to add the lore, and you want to add, more interactive gameplay, allow players to explore the area and find information, more questions start getting asked, more holes in the story start getting poked, and we might be a little like, I guess, like it's our love child. Like, we want it to be perfect, right? When I make a map, I really want that map to look perfect. Same thing with the lore, right? We want it to make sense. We want it to have a continuity to it. So we're kind of stuck there. There's this one part, which I'll get into, and I'll show you all some stuff. Kind of catch you up to speed here. Let me get my manager up. We'll give everybody a few more moments to kind of find their seats. But first, Slurpy Slurpy to you and yours. Okay. Levels are good. Rock and roll. Hey there, is that another one joining the stream? What's going on? I'm the Caretographer. Today we're homebrewing. So let me see. Let me get up. Pull you over here. Pull you here. You here. Just get my OBS. Game Lab World. Yes, it's World. We will not be making any character designs today. I think actually I don't know if I made everybody in Daggerford. I probably could hop on that as some stream content at some point. Let's see. So, yeah, we'll get this up. That's up. Good. Cool. So, let's see here. Let's scroll down. I believe it's right here. Sacred Site. Our monoliths. So, here's the monoliths page. And I guess I'll just read through everything here so I can just get my brain in the right track. Okay, so the three monoliths. The island contains three monoliths with symbols etched into them. Each one is about 3 feet wide, 3 foot long, and 7 foot tall. They all have varying sizes, actually. They are several thousand pounds. However, the symbols on each one are different. They don't appear to be any language of which you are familiar. They clearly were shaped and etched using metal chisels, but how they were moved is a mystery. It would have taken more people to move such heavy stones than would have ever existed on the island at one time. The symbols tell a story. The story is split up, so the characters will need to find all 3 monoliths in order to read it all. It is written in a primitive unknown language, so the characters will need to translate it. One of the characters will need to either succeed in a DC 17 intelligent investigation check or cast Comprehend Languages spell in order to translate the glyphs. Monolith number 1. The salamander is our provider. Our lives depend on her fertility. But we were desperate to find a way we could encourage her docility. The most learned and sage man among us called the turtle from the watery deep. Turtle sang the salamander a song, and she fell into a very deep sleep. If the turtle receives an offering, the salamander will stay in a doze. But if his song is interrupted, the salamander wakes and her wrath shows. Oh my god, I just had an amazing idea. So, we've been discussing. So, there's 2 things that we're trying to figure out here, right? First is, why? Why monoliths? Where did they come from? Why did the people of this island put them there? Why did they spend all this time and energy and magic making these things? Why are they so important? Right? And we're kind of muddling around right now with the idea that these monoliths are like a warning. Essentially like a prophetic warning, to whomever might be on the island in the future, or hopefully to, more specifically the party. And in my hopeful opinion, these monoliths are put there for the party, right? So therefore, like, they put the monoliths there in hopes that some person or people would come along, figure them out, do the right thing, and continue on, right? And I think I have a really, really good idea that just came out of nowhere. And that's with that 3rd monolith. And I tried doing this before with kind of like reading into what we had for the content of the monoliths, their messages, and trying to, find a theme. So like I was like, oh, the turtle sang a watery song, turtle sang the sound. So I was like, maybe the turtle sings a song, but what does that mean? Like, not an actual turtle. I was thought maybe, a flute, like an ocarina that was made out of a turtle shell, or maybe just crafted to look like a turtle, even. And it's just a turtle flute, right? The turtle singing the song. The salamander is our provider. Depends on her fertility. I was like, oh, like, well, maybe like the fertility is something that we could think into, and maybe use like a symbol of fertility in some manner. And now reading the 3rd one, the line that sticks out to me the most is, but if his song is interrupted. Right? So we've been thinking, this is now the second side of this is like when all these players figure out the story of our module, and they get to the end, the inside of the volcano and the dungeon, the BBG, right? The end of the campaign. We're trying to find some type of ritual that these players can do to kind of release the spirit from the mountain. And we've been struggling on what that looks like. And I think a fun idea could be that it's an encounter in which if they want to cleanse the spirit, they have to play the salamander a song, which isn't going to just innately calm the spirit right away. It's going to piss it off, right? So it's going to attack whoever has the flute and is playing the flute, right? And the party now has to defend the flute player. And I think I was trying to find a way to make it so it's not like bard specific, right? So we gotta balance the mechanics out in a manner in which, you know, because I guess bards are rather squishy. So, in most cases, not my bards. I like making tank bards and all sorts of fun bards. Like the one-man bandstand bard, whoo, impenetrable defense. Would absolutely eat this challenge up. But the challenge I'm proposing is like a defense mission where like you're in a giant room of lava and one person plays the flute in the middle and the party has to defend them from the great beast, right? And if they can defend the flute player long enough, then the ritual may in fact take place. So I was gonna message this down. Actually, I used to just like type them to my partner, but I feel like that's rude, and it's very easy for me to just type them not there and then, you know, paste them to them later, which is what I would do. Okay, so note 1. Idea 1. No, ritual idea. Person has to play flute while the party defends them. Multiple performance checks need to be made in order to complete the ritual to free the spirit. It's a mundane flute, so prof isn't needed to play it. I mean, even it could be like a magical flute, right? It could be. It could even, yeah, it could be like a magical flute that like requires con checks, right? Or maybe even like wisdom checks. Hmm. Ritual idea. A person has to play the flute while the party defends them. Multiple performance checks need to be made in order to complete the ritual to free the spirit. It's a mundane flute, so proficiency isn't needed to play it. Hey, what's going on? How you doing, Galaxons? It's mundane. 3 checks seems... 3 successful checks. Good to hear. Today we're homebrewing. I'm hoping to get some help on some ideas here. Let's see. And like some mechanics. So yeah, so I'm thinking we have this flute. Someone in the party needs to play the flute. It's a performance check to play the flute. If they make the three rounds of combat, trying to think of a mechanic that works so that if you make the checks, it speeds things up. But if you fail the checks, there's still a set amount of time until you complete said ritual, right? So we could do half time and full time. So perhaps players have to play the flute for 6 rounds, but if they make a successful performance check, then get a phone timer. No, it's gotta be like mechanical. It's gotta be something down to like pen, paper, and dice, right? It is D&D, right? It is a game. But I don't want it to make it too D&D mechanic, right? So I don't necessarily want like a DC to have or something, or maybe DC's fine. Yeah, I'm not really sure how I want to do it. You know, what I see is the party defending, say, a 4-man party, 3 people defending 1 person. That 1 person's playing the flute. Meanwhile, the BBG lava monster is fighting the party, and they have to defend and use all their power to defend this person who's playing the flute, who's really pissing off the Leviathan. So I think it's more or less a matter of rounds. Like, they gotta complete a certain amount of rounds of playing it. We could say 3 successful performance checks and or 5 rounds in total. But I don't understand how that doesn't necessarily make sense to me. Like, if you're playing a flute and you played it successfully or well enough for the 3 rounds, you know, but then you fail the check and mutter up some of the notes, you know, I don't know. And so essentially what we're a little confusing, yeah. Essentially what we're trying to make, we'll start there, Gail. What we're trying to make is a ritual. some type of ritual that the players must accomplish to cleanse a spirit, a very large monster spirit, right? That's what we're making at base. What I want this ritual to look like is something a bit more active than, say, I spend 10 minutes with some salt and incense, doing a ritual. I want it to be a little bit more hands-on, right? So essentially I wanted to have, like I had this idea for like a defense thing. We're looking at the third monolith here. And I have it highlighted. It says, but if his song is interrupted, and if his song is referring to the turtle song, which we had thought maybe a turtle flute would be a cool idea, right? The turtle song, right? Right. So I'm thinking, but if his song is interrupted, is them playing the turtle flute, and then that gave me the idea for like this defense ritual, where they have to stir the spirit from its slumber, and they have to play the flute song in its entirety without being interrupted, right? Maybe that's how I can play this. Maybe with performance checks, you're playing the same song no matter what. It's mundane flute. But if you can successfully breath the notes, then yeah, maybe you play the song faster or with less interruptions. Right? Like, like breathing techniques and stuff for singing and playing instruments is a thing. I've played instruments and I've sung. And now that I'm older, and I smoke a bit too much cannabis for my pain, like my range is a little bit shorter and my breath is a little bit shorter, right? So, a bard, somebody who's skilled at playing music and singing, right, would maybe have a bigger bodied breath that can sustain more of these notes. So maybe that's the idea. Maybe that's the explanation. Ritual idea. Person has to play the flute while the party defends them. Let's play the flute while the party defends them. Song. Breathe into it. It takes 5 turns for the let's see, turn 1 they make the check and they pass. Turn 3, or sorry, turn 2 they make the check and they pass. Turn 3, yeah, so I think that works out perfectly. So it takes 5 turns of someone breathing into the magical flute for the song to be complete. If a successful performance check is made, take one off the counter. So let me see this again. Let me write it out. I gotta go let me put my ice peas away. Okay. What are you working on, Gail? You doing any homebrewing today? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 turns. Round 1. I use my action. I fail. I use my action. I pass. +1. Round 2. I fail. We're at +1 already. No, +1 again. So we're at 4. Round 3. We fail. We're at 4 turns. We've taken 2 off. Do. So there's nothing else to take off. It finishes there. Do. And then it could possibly be as if they pass them both. And like if this is the case, hey, what's up, Lo? Hey, what's up going on, D&D? Curse of Strahd. Hold up. Let me throw it out for there you are. Give me my bloody Strahd office. Yeah, so right now, I was in my notes. I'm trying to figure out some mechanics for this ritual that I've been meddling around with. And the mechanic I think I found works. I want to make a turn counter in a manner that is, about 5 turns of combat for regular. And then if a bard steps in and totally home runs these performance checks for me, I still want there to be, a decent amount of combat, and I don't want it to be that much. So I think 3 to 5, 3 turns of combat for the bard that rocks and gets crits on both of his performance checks, and then 5 turns for the party that doesn't even have a bard, right? Flute things, exactly. And then in between that, maybe a bard passes 1 and fails 1, or maybe you have, like a multi-class person or someone, or like a rogue who just has, performance proficiency, right? And they maybe, slim by on one of the checks, or maybe you use some spells to boost give them Eagle Splenda, right? And give them the ability with a bless, or no, bless doesn't work there. But give whatever magic you want to do for buffs, to give like the paladin the ability to, because what is around this flute playing, these flute problems, is the one person in the party is going to be playing said flute. The rest of the party is tasked with defending and fighting against the big evil lava monster, right? Yes. Yes. So this is a ritual that I want my players to do, like a hands-on ritual that's going to round out the end of this module. So essentially, the BBEG lair that we have set up, I envision can go down three ways. The players can run in there, steal the artifact, fight the beast, and win or lose. It's the same outcome. They fight the beast. Doesn't matter. Game's over. They can go in there, steal the artifact, and run for the high hills, and either get away or die. Doesn't matter. Game's over. Or thirdly, they can try to take the artifact, complete the ritual, and not kill the beast, free the spirit, and then the game's over. So those are the three scenarios that I see, and what we're trying to figure out is this ritual. It's a flute it's a flute thing, That's all. So here, let me I'll show you the page. Let me get back over to my world. So I think I just had, that was like, I just had, this is what I love about homebrewing and just creating in general. Inspiration, right? Is it has no rhyme or reason. It is elusive and mysterious. You can't force it to come out. It needs to be coaxed. But what does it want today? Nobody knows, right? So, and I tell my partner that I'm working on, I literally, they said they're like, oh, like I haven't done anything in a couple days. We've been stuck on this monolith bit. And they said they're going to see the new Deadpool movie and such, and they're like, oh, blah blah blah, and like feeling all like down in the dumps about it. I'm like, no, you don't feel that feeling. You go and Deadpool on it. Like the inspiration will come when it comes. You can't force a creative process, and we shouldn't put ourselves down because it's not, coming as fast as we want it. And we've been chatting about this for about a week, and I already kind of came up with an idea for 1 and 2, but 3 eluded me, and like the first 5 seconds of reading this, I've read through this once to catch everybody up, and then I was like, oh my god, idea, right? The ritual is tied to, but if his song is interrupted. And his song is the turtle song, the song from the watery deep. The turtle sang the salamander a song, right? Which we have already transcribed into a flute that is made from a turtle or is a turtle shape, right? So I was like, boom, bang, like, like the ritual is don't interrupt the song, right? You got to play the flute, but don't interrupt the song, which is completely a cool mechanic. And I love the idea of, the fight isn't just kill the thing, right? So now the fight is you need to not die against this thing because you don't want to kill the thing. You want to help the thing, right? But it's still a giant beast of lava that's going to burn you, So it's the peaceful method. It's the alternative method. It's the ending that we really, really want our players to get to. And if the players explore and are intent enough about finding the lore and reading into it, then this should be the foreseen ending. So the nature of the ritual is to cleanse a spirit. So let me scroll up here, see if any of this will actually give you more information. So here's the island. This is an island in the middle of the ocean. This is a better photo of it. And on this island, there's several points of interest. There is a villa with a family that appears to have lived here and has a vineyard. There's a grave site with a mysterious monolith, which is what we've been talking about, those 3 monoliths. The first one's here. as you travel up, you see there's a volcano. Inside this volcano, we have maps that go down into a labyrinth that then go down into a giant lair of lava where a lava serpent exists. Essentially, we're taking a water leviathan and we're reskinning it fire. And as the story is this volcano, very rather dangerous volcano, was set to erupt, and this family had been put here by celestial means, or they just decided it was their duty as the family, and they uprooted their lives to live on this island, secluded from society. And essentially, what these people did was create this ritual to trap this water leviathan inside the volcano to cool down the volcano, and keep it from erupting, for the good of mankind. So now, what has happened is the family has died through happenstance, and nobody is on this island anymore. It is now abandoned. The volcano is starting to get more and more active because the bonds that have been put onto that ritual to bind this leviathan here are starting to weaken. It's been a long time, several hundred years, right? Nobody's here to check over the spell. So essentially what we want for these players is them to have a way to cleanse this spirit, this water leviathan that has been trapped in the flame for hundreds and hundreds of years, that was wrongfully put there to for a greater good. And essentially what we're trying to allude to is they didn't have to make the tough decision. They could have done this in a better manner, but they decided to entrap this leviathan here and imprison them to get what they wanted. They took the easy way, and now the players have to do it the hard way, the right way, and fix the problem. So essentially this ritual is their attempt to cleanse the lava spirit, free them from their shackles and binds, and release them from the volcano and back into the ocean. Which, in my opinion, if it does happen, the Leviathan comes surging out with a burst of water, or perhaps even a surge of water comes from the ocean, and it pulls in, and the water comes in and cools off the volcano for good, leaving it dormant and with a glassy obsidian sheen. And the players, get sucked out onto the beach shore, and the campaign's done, right? So that's my idea. Our idea, I should say. It's like piecemeal. I'll come up a little bit, my partner will come up a little bit, that turns into something, It's an amalgam of ideas. Hey, yeah, perhaps that's what happens. I like that. The water coming in thing is more or less a means to my idea of, I like the concept of the end of this campaign, that they successfully finish everything, everything gets flushed with water, and the players just get pulled out of the dungeon and back to the beach to be restarted, and just say, hey, it's done. A very clean, clear cut, hey, it's done. You saw everything happen, successful. Here's a water slide ride to get you to the end of the campaign, was kind of my idea. So perhaps another way that could happen is, say, we transmute the fire into water, and the Leviathan swoops down and swooshes everything up into the dungeon, and picks up the players and carries them with them as it rushes out to the ocean like a calf being set free, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I like that better because then it's the Leviathan carrying them as like a thank you. It was like picking them up, and you could even like get like descriptive with it and say, like, this seems like a tremendous amount of force in water, but for some reason the it feels like a gentle caressful touch, like, um, because the Leviathan's like, carrying you out, right? So I like that. I like that. So that's the back end of it, and that's really kind of like, I just had this idea and I had to run with it because I didn't want to lose it. Um, Let me type down your little 2 cents there. Uh, yeah, and that mechanics literally, and what I love about mechanics is if you're smart about how you set them up, they should be short and sweet. Like, it should be 1 or 2 sentences that says everything you need to make this mechanic work. And mine's complete in one. I segmented into 2 sentences, so that makes me happy. Yeah. So if you didn't hear the mechanic, I'll reiterate it. So it takes the flute does not require proficiency. Um, it merely requires somebody to breathe air into it. So you don't need to be proficient in anything to play it. Because it's like this old mundane flute. And I was even thinking like maybe like you just play through the flute and like maybe there's like this little magical turtle that plays the notes for you or something. I don't know. Moving on. It takes 5 turns, or I should say 5 actions, uh, but we'll say 5 turns. It takes 5 turns for the song to be complete. If you have a successful performance check, maybe like DC 20, something decently hard, um, it takes 1 turn off of the counter. So what that means is if you have a bard that comes in and blows the socks off with 2 critty performance checks, it'll take 3 turns of combat for them to complete this ritual. So they still have to do the thing, and they still have to have the hard bout of defending your player against the BBG for 3 turns. Um, Now, if you don't have a bard and nobody's proficient, it takes 5 turns to do the same thing. Um, and I don't think that's the worst of ideas because in my brain, I'm thinking, like, if you're not going to have a bard who's performing very well on this flute, well, what's the next thing you want? The biggest, tankiest, beefiest dude you can have on the flute, right? And so then it becomes a, hey, I can live for 5 turns getting smacked by this boss. Where in retrospect, if it's the bard, in most cases, bards are fairly squishy, depending on, how you have them set up. At the very least, their HP is normally fairly squishy. So, yeah, so I mean, if you, I very cutely didn't I don't have to write anything about it, but to answer your question, they can fail the checks. It takes 5 turns for the song to be complete. Pass, fail, doesn't matter, right? If you do pass, you just get a bonus turn taken off. So what ends up happening is I have a scale of you're a badass bard, your performance checks are off the chain, or you guys work together to get all the buffs and have like plus 10 to your roll on someone who doesn't have performance, right? Um, they can take 3 turns if they pass 2 checks. It would now take 4 turns if somebody passes 1 check and fails the other, right? And then if you fail all the checks, 5 turns. Um, and I guess, on that 4th turn, if you were to pass it then, it would take 4. So you do get 4 chances to be at turn 4, as opposed to 2 chances to be at turn 3. So it's rather balanced. Yes, 100%. Someone has to be playing it, using their action, bonus action, their whole turn. Maybe even, no movement. Yeah, they can't do nothing. They're a sitting turtle, not a duck. They're a sitting turtle, um, and that's literally that's the challenge. You know, the fight is you have to now. You're not fighting the thing to kill it. You're trying to defend your party member so nobody dies. Right? You're the lawful good paladin and cleric crew that came in, and you're like, we're not killing this thing. You know, it did nothing wrong, right? We spent an entire 2 weeks learning about how this thing did nothing wrong, right? Or at the very least, we just don't want to have to kill things to solve our problems. It's like defending a tower, but your player is the tower, and then the tower needs to be defended for 5 turns. If your tower can make those checks, it can go down to 3 or 5. So it's the same thing. It's really not that big of a difference, in my opinion. If someone's at 3 or 5, um, so I think the mechanic works. Well, that's bad news bears. That's you did not take 5 turns for the song to be complete. And that goes back to scenario 1, which is now, or scenario 1 and 2, which is we fight it, live or die, or we run from it, live or die. So I don't want the ritual to be given, and I don't want it to be silly, far-fetched, where it's like, oh, you spend 10 minutes with some incense and, like, what have you. In suspended game time. I want it to be down to turns. I want it to be a combat-focused thing, but not just like a kill a thing, right? So, if a player goes unconscious, then, that's them failing the ritual, I think. And then they would have to, tuck tail and run if they don't want to kill it, would be their solution. If they're a non-killing party. Or maybe their lives are on the line, so they determine that they can defend them and kill this beast for their own preservation. Well, it is a timer. It's a turn timer. I use real life timers, but not in this scenario. I use real life timers for like large timers. So like if I do a one shot, I'll be like, hey, we have 3 hours to play this one shot. On the end of the 3rd hour, the game is done. I'll do stuff like that. But yeah, I personally don't like using real time in shorter expanse because me as a player, I don't always think of everything at the same speed that it needs to be, comprehended. And also like there's like communication and stuff that has to go down. So it's a little bit more difficult for me to emulate the character that I want to play or play the game the way I want to play it on an actual timer. Not to say that they're bad and you shouldn't use them. That's not the point. The point is I personally don't like that pressure as a player. I like to have the freedom to think about what I want to do before I do it. So a turn timer is essentially the same thing, except the real life time is a little bit more, flexible, right? So 5 turns is going to be a set amount of time. You're probably going to spend 30 minutes a turn if you have a 4-man party-ish. So it's about a 2.5 hour timer, right? That's, embellishing because what if your party's really good at going through their turns? Right? And one of the players is playing the flute. So maybe they're fucking 5-minute turns, 5 rounds, 5-minute turns, 25 minutes, right? So there is a timer and a scale there, but I think it's more up to players and allows them to have that ability to make hard decisions in crunch time. For sure, yeah. What do you got? It's not a pass fail. It's not a pass fail. Because they still pass if they fail. So I think I was smart about not, because I don't want it to be a pass fail, because it's bad to do pass fail things when you want the players to accomplish it. If it's something that's tertiary, a bonus scroll, an extra hidden chest, a secret passageway that gets them somewhere a little bit faster. Stuff like that, pass fail. Great pass fail. Trying to steal from somebody's pocket, pass fail. But like this is an important integral part mechanic of the story and of the gameplay, so I don't want it to be pass fail. But only one person's technically playing the flute, right? We can change that. Someone can play the flute and could suck on the life force of all 4 people in the party. There we go. Insta-fix, but suspended reality sometimes. Unless the flute is imperative to the story, I would make it so the ritual requires an object that is of primordial nature to reverse an elemental curse, which is interacted with until the next layer action. What do you mean by layer action? Like lair? Lair? Or like layer? Yeah, okay. Of which is interacted with. So it's not a flute. No. Well, so the flute is a little imperative to the story. So we'll scroll down here, which is this is how I got on the flute. So let me read the 3 monoliths. The salamander is our provider. Our lives depend on her fertility, but we were desperate to find a way we could encourage her docility. The most learned and sage man among us called the turtle from the watery deep. Turtle sang the salamander a song, and she fell into a very deep sleep. If the turtle receives an offering, the salamander will stay in a doze, but if his soft song is interrupted, the salamander wakes and her wrath shows. So I tied the turtle and the turtle flute to Monolith 2, which, says the call from the turtle from the watery deep, the turtle sang a song. That was my idea for the turtle. It doesn't have to be a flute. It could be something different. It could be a magical music box, right? That you spin and it plays a song and you got to sit there and hold it. Like it could be anything. So it's not like too important, but I at least want it to be like in a turtle theme, I guess, until we change the text of this. And then again, Monolith 3, you take the flute or the thing and just it needs to not be interrupted. If the turtle needs to receive an offering, which would be a sign of fertility, which we said from here. And if the salamander wakes, then her wrath shows. So get messed up. Turtle noises aren't exactly flute-like. Well, yeah, it's a song, and it doesn't need to be turtle noises. I'm thinking the South Park episode where they do the giraffe noise. No, it's a song. I wanted it's the turtle saying a song. It's all prophetic. This is with the monoliths. We're trying to make a prophecy that kind of exists for the players to solve and use to complete this ritual in its completion. Because anybody, without the monoliths and without looking into story, anybody can march into that temple, take the artifact, and run, or take the artifact and kill the thing. You can do that at any point in time. That's just D&D, right? But the third option, read the monoliths, solve the riddle, figure out the do's and the don'ts, and then complete them, is, I guess, the hard mode, the story mode, the extra challenge for the people who like lore and story, right? That's, kind of what I'm trying to design here. Well, was the whole concept with the turtle flute. You're nipping on the heels of like where my thought process was. Like a conch shell, a shell flute, like an ocarina. you know, almost has a turtle shape to it. So like perhaps somebody carved a flute to look like a turtle, and or took a turtle shell and made it into a flute. Right? That was kind of like a shell, you know, like a conch shell. So there's a similar concept. And I like the idea of making it like magical, like it was like the most learned sage man among us. So one of the villagers on the island, the sage, you know, who completed this spell, you know, made this flute from the, you know, the flesh of this island to cast this spell to bind this beast here. You know, this is where kind of like where like my brain trails off on this idea. Um, so yeah, anybody's got any 2 cents here, we appreciate. Um, Transmuted into water, and the Leviathan carries the party out the beach gently. So yeah, I mean, if you think something fits a bit better than a flute and you know some performance checks with said flute, I didn't want to make it something like a wisdom thing. You know, I didn't want to make it like a wisdom thing. Because I feel like there's a lot of like powerhouse wisdom characters that exist all the time. And there isn't always a person who's skilled in performance. So it's that niche advantage for somebody who does play the bard. Maybe I'm a little biased because I like to play bards. Which already tend to be a little bit behind the scale and the pace. But I think with the design of 3 to 5 rounds, it's like, if you're the bard and you get 3 rounds, great. Are you really that mad that you had to stay for 4 or 5 rounds, though? It's only 1 or 2 more. You know, it's not that much harder. So I don't think it's that. And this is what I've been talking to my partner about this concept in game creation, and I think it's important in D&D, because you're right. Like, people don't like pass fail. They don't like getting slapped on the wrist, you know. So I like to create advantages for people that do things, but not penalties for people who can't. Right? So I kind of like create a baseline where I go, oh, if nobody had any class abilities, everybody would kind of be at this baseline. And it doesn't matter what your party composition looks like, the game will play at this baseline, right? But then, say you have a bard or a cleric that can turn dead, or you know some niche ability, you know you go a little bit up on that baseline, right? So, for example, um, you know, people who are in the dungeon. So we have a dungeon in this. We have a labyrinth of 3 floors. Um, People who don't care about anything and just want to march up to the top of the volcano and barge into the labyrinth, all robber baron pirate style, will have to, you know, navigate between 3 labyrinths. Um, we have a secret entrance and a whole bunch of other stuff that leads to the 3rd floor. But that doesn't just get you into, you know, the BBEG lair. It just gets you into the 3rd floor. You still have to participate in the labyrinth. And you may get lost in the floors above it. You know, who knows? Um, but you have a small advantage as to opposed to where somebody who didn't do all these odds and ends has no advantage, not a disadvantage. So it's a way I try to design things. It doesn't always come out the way I want it to. Sometimes things are gonna feel pass faily, I guess, regardless of what you do. But We're trying. Here we are. We're trying. So now the question is now that I got you guys caught up a little bit, the question is why, what, and why? What, where, and why? If these villa people, and thanks for the follow, by the way, everybody. If these villa people created this binding, this enchantment to bind the spirit, the water spirit, into the volcano to prevent the volcano from erupting, and now those binds are starting to weaken after a long time, right? I think the answer in my opinion is staring me right in the face. And this is what I already kind of pitched this, but I don't know if my partner's in love with it yet, which is the people of the villa are good people. Like, they innately are good people. They wanted to prevent a bad thing from happening. They just did a bad thing to do it, right? So they don't want doom wished upon anybody. And they're proud of their ability to bind this spirit here. You know, it was an accomplishment for them. However, you know, magic isn't always permanent, and you know, maybe the elders of the villa knew at some point in time, you know, whether for good or bad, that they wouldn't be there to continue to keep these binds of this spell active, right? But the question is, you know, why would they give instructions on how to cleanse this beast for good and not just do it themselves, right? So the idea that they put these monoliths up as a warning of people to say, hey, we did this, and you know, maybe in time it won't be as strong, right? So it's going to become undone, and then bad things happen, that's fine, that's regular. But what we have happen is the binds are breaking, and it comes undone, and everything's fixed, right? So if they could have, why would they have the recipe to fix the mountain and not do it? So I guess expanding on that, you know, why wouldn't the villa people want to deactivate the volcano for good and free the water leviathan themselves? And further, why would they write the instructions on how to do that on these monoliths and not do it themselves? Is kind of where we're stuck. And this is what I was saying before. It's like, it's easy to say A, B, and C. We got mechanics 3 to 5, you know, yada, 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 turtle flute. But it's a bit harder to make the story kind of make sense. So there isn't that suspended reality of like, oh, that's dumb. Why didn't they just do this, right? Why are we here as the party? So my first Band-Aid idea was we could just say it's a moon and star thing. You see up here in the top right, that golden orb, that's my observatory. We have a celestial connection already. Perhaps the stars and the moons needed to be aligned in a certain manner so that the tide was at a certain height so that this ritual would work. And I think if somebody had more technical terms to use there, it might sound a bit better, but, you know, it could be as simple as that. So I don't know if y'all have any other ideas for that. This is kind of where I need the most help, I think. Is the why. why would villa people... Why wouldn't they do it themselves? Why can't they? I think the better question to ask is why can't they? Because if they could, they would have. Because I already said that these people are good people. They innately want the best for mankind. They have taken their family and their lives, and they've latched them to this island and given up on society and living a normal life. And they bound their family here for eternity to this island, to this beast. Maybe that's it. Maybe they were bound with the beast. And the beast can't be set free until those other binds are set free. But guess what? All those people are dead. That whole family's dead now. So there's only one bind leaving it, its own, the Leviathan's bind. Maybe that's the idea. Maybe that's it. The villagers and themselves with the Leviathan to the island. Now that the villagers are all dead and gone, dead and gone, dead and gone, the only binding left is that of the Leviathans. Right? Right? Right. That makes a lot of sense. And maybe they knew, maybe one of them knew that. And maybe that's why. Why can't they just free the Leviathan and make everything good and hunky-dory day? Because they're not willing to sacrifice their whole family in blood, in cold blood, in order to also free the Leviathan? Question mark? But they knew at one point in time their family would die. Eventually, it just may happen. And if that case were to happen, then they could free the beast. And then if we backpedal a little bit, to, well, why would they do this in the first place? Perhaps it was a last minute decision of desperation, where the volcano was on the verge of eruption and they had no other choice but to do a blood binding ritual to shackle their family line, their family heritage, their bloodline, and the Leviathan to this island for the greater good. I don't know, am I just rambling here? Now the villagers are all dead and gone, and only one binding left is that of the Leviathans. To which if is removed, cleanses I like this. I just realized this. The villagers from the villa. The villagers could not. Villagers had to. Great. Better posture when I type. Gosh. great sage of the villagers made a desperate move to save last minute desperate move to eruption. And like even like it could have been like malpractice where like the intent was good. They wanted to tie this here, but because something happened that this was like a byproduct or an accident inside the ritual, right? This wasn't what they truly wanted, but it's just just an outcome that they had to deal with now. They could not undo the ritual bindings. However, knew that at one point in time, eventually, his family will not be alive. Good intent. Okay, story idea. The villagers bound themselves with the Leviathan to the island. Now that the villagers are all dead and gone, the only binding left is the one of the Leviathans, which if is removed, then cleanses the island. Huh? Yeah. The great sage of the villagers made a last-minute desperate move to save the volcano from erupting. Way back in time when his family was there exploring or doing what have you. I'll let my story writer come up with stuff like that. Which this mistakenly tied the whole family to the island forever. Something maybe went wrong in the ritual casting, perhaps. Refusing to kill his family in cold blood to right the mistakes of this ritual, they could not undo these ritual bindings. However, knew that at one point in time, eventually his family will not be alive. And at that point, someone of good intent could remove the final binding from the Leviathan. I have an idea! More idea, story idea. black horse of the family. Gave the pirates the gas. Okay. That's solid. That's some solid stuff right there. We love it. We love it. Hey, what's up, Janie? Thanks for the follow. Nope, no Discord. I don't know what is with people. Just stop. Stop doing what you're doing, Janie. Just stop doing what you're doing. I appreciate the follow, but not what follows. The follow. Get rid of these creeps, Lo. You get hit up this much by the creepos? Give me your Discord. I have some artwork to show you. Let's see. I'm gonna stretch my legs. We'll do a leg stretcher. Leg stretch. I'll be back, everybody. back. We're back. So what do you think? What do you think about the villa, the Viller? Check my dog. Let me check the question. And that's also the answer to why they would hide that there. Because when that chamber opens up, it kills their family. Maybe... Copy these questions down. And go over here. No, dang it, I hate that. Okay, here we go. Why would these people create these? And why would they hide when... Oh, there's and... Boom. Those are the answers to the questions. I wanted to circle back. I was asked a couple questions and like more specifically like, hey, we need to figure this out. Thanks. I got shaved. I'm growing this out a little bit. I'm going to trim it and get it like all nice. I just wanted to do a full beard. Again, I miss doing a full beard, so. I'm like trim on top and gruff on bottom. So yeah, so my partner was like, blah, 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 we're stuck. I have these 3 specific questions. I was like, I want to answer those 3 questions. We're gonna answer them. We're gonna figure it out. We did that. I'm super pleased. So yeah, mission accomplished. Mission accomplished. Thanks, COS, for your help. I got one of your notes in there for sure. But yeah, I think I solved all the problems. So let's see. No vampires tonight. No vampires tonight. Next week, I think we're starting back up. Finally. It's like I'm like starved for some role play. I can't wait to get back into it. So, I might do. I'll probably be streaming tomorrow night. Most likely, we'll be doing the Friday night free Friday maps. Free maps on Friday. I don't know what I'm calling it yet. Something like that. So yeah, if you want to help me come up with some ideas for some free maps, or maybe there's a map that maybe you need for your endeavors, Friday's my volunteer time. So I give about like 2-3 hours to just poke around. I'll make my own maps for my Patreon channel to give out for free. All my stuff's on my Patreon's free. Check out my @Caretographer at Patreon over there, that direction. And yeah, I'll do some of my own projects, or I will come up with something on the spot. But I'd love to have some feedback from my viewers. And we'll be doing some maps tomorrow. So thanks everybody. Appreciate the follows. Appreciate y'all being here, participating. We'll see you soon. Take care.